everyone. Before I just start off, I just want to show you all a video to talk about. A lot of you know what Huddle01 is, but I just wanted to demonstrate what we have built recently. It's a small 40-second video, and after that, essentially, I'll talk about what we are building, what we have built, and what we're going to build again. Who is here, who has helped us build this community from ground up and has put so much attention into detail into what our network does and has been playing around with our products, with our infrastructure, our network, and have been so jolly with us all around. And it feels like we are at day zero. I thank all of you and hope that we have a 5-year long run together and even more. That's it. Translate.
All right, here's the translation. मैं हर उस व्यक्ति का धन्यवाद करता हूँ जो यहाँ है, जिन्होंने इस कम्युनिटी को ग्राउंड अप से बनाने में हमारी मदद की है, हमारे प्रोडक्ट्स, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और नेटवर्क के साथ खेले हैं और हमारे साथ हर ओर खुश रहे हैं। ऐसा लगता है जैसे हम डे ज़ीरो पर हैं। मैं हर सभी का आभारी हूँ और आशा करता हूँ कि हमारे पास एक लंबी 5 साल की दौड़ है।
Awesome. So yeah, this is one of the things which we wanted to show you first. And hi everyone, I'm Ayush. I'm one of the co-founder and CEO of Huddle01. And at Huddle, we are building a people-powered communication network. It's a decentralized network for real-time communication. So what I showed you right now is one of the possibilities. I just want to know from here, how many of you here have been using video conferencing platforms for a long, long time now? Everyone. It's almost 100% of us. How many of you who are like born before 2000 have also used Skype? How many of you have essentially moved from Skype directly to Zoom or to Google Meet? So essentially, from the last couple of decades, Skype came in 1999. And from that time till 2020, the platform where we moved from was from Skype to Zoom. The thing which has changed, essentially, is the number of screens who can chat with each other. That's it. There were 2 screens earlier, and now there are around 2,000 screens which can talk to each other in general. We require a lot of changes which needs to be done in communication, and that's where we are building this people-powered network. So real-time communication essentially stands for what we are doing here, RTC. If you see a lot of deep-in categories right now, you would have heard from the Akave team, who is also building fantastic stuff in the compute category, making sure that you're able to have decentralized compute. You'll be hearing from Mark as well, from the Aether team, who are doing phenomenal work in the compute category. So in terms of categories of deep-in, there are phenomenal categories getting built. In terms of compute, you have Aether, you have Fluence, who is also here. You have a couple of other teams. In terms of different kind of categories like storage, you have Filecoin, essentially the organizers of the event in general. In terms of AI, GPU, in terms of all the other blockchains, you're seeing a lot of different kind of deepins who are out there trying to make sure that we build this a people-powered, a more bottom-up infrastructure in general. Similarly, for real-time communication, we are doing it. There are a couple of other players as well who are into the space of RTC and trying to make sure that this communication becomes much more people-powered, becomes much more innovative, and becomes much more privacy-centric. Because, as we all saw, there's not a lot of innovation which has happened in the last 20 years in terms of communication chasm from the time of Skype to the time of Zoom days. And that's where we come in. RTC right now is serving a multi-billion-dollar market. If you see right now in terms of anything which you do, if you're interacting on X Spaces, you're using a real-time communication. If you're talking to an AI agent, you're using a real-time communication. If essentially you are doing a video conferencing, you're using a RTC. In any kind of thing which you do right now in the real world, you use real-time communication. It's so much embedded that you are huddling in a real-time world all the time. Now, when you're doing this kind of huddling, you require to make sure that can you do this in a very bottom-up, people-powered manner? Because when we started Huddle01 back in 2020, we realized one very important thing, that when Zoom was great for the COVID time, but for people who had high bandwidth, for people essentially who had a very, very good kind of quality of calls in general. But what we realized was that Zoom didn't work very well in APAC region because all the data centers were located in completely different part of the world, which was essentially North Virginia. That led to a lot of people in India essentially facing a lot of issues in terms while using these platforms like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, or any kind of this platforms which exist in the market right now because of how the internet infrastructure is built for communication. So despite having this huge growth in terms of communication, the cost of doing a communication call is supremely expensive. The capex costings are so over the roof that right now, if you're doing a Zoom call, when you pay $20 per month as a license, essentially Zoom has to pay humongous amount of money to AWS as an egress cost, which was earlier talked about by the Carve team as well. And that egress cost is nothing but a broker cost, which these people charge, which AWS charge, which all these data centers charge, just for brokering this internet from an internet service provider to essentially to people like you and me, which doesn't need to be the case. The second is geographical latency. If I and you are in Bangalore and doing a call in Bangalore itself, any kind of audio call, any kind of video call, any kind of live streaming, we don't require to send all of this data to a central server all the far away. And that's where we're like, if I'm doing a call with Dipancho here, in HSR or in KTPO, I should be able to connect to Dipancho here in KTPO itself via his own laptop, where his own laptop can become a node and can power the call of all of us. And that's what we are building here, making sure that all of this thing, the communication which we are doing, is being powered by us rather than essentially by this data center itself. So all the value accrues goes back to you yourself rather than basically these bigger data centers taking it up. And this is what I was talking about. So if you see here, right now, if you're doing a call, and if that's what a customer pays, an 80x multiplier just for the internet service, where Zoom essentially is not the problem. The problem is Zoom runs on what? Zoom runs on these data centers, and Zoom has to pay to these data centers the cost of internet, which is supremely high and which doesn't need to be the case because now you have 5G. You have 6G coming up, you have Starlink. So you have decent amount of internet right now at your own disposal, which can be used to route these calls because RTC is not compute intensive. It's very bandwidth intensive task. That means the more bandwidth you have, the more you're able to do these kind of calls in a very efficient people powered manner in the general. This leads to a 95% cheaper costing. Number one. Second, leads to much better performance. As you have this better performance, it leads to a very good kind of an experience because you don't have to do a 2D calls anymore. If you have seen Iron Man, if you've seen these movies, you'll see that you're having a holographic screen where you're able to chat with the other person and it looks very natural. The reason why we have only reached from the Skype era to the Zoom era is because the calls which we are doing right now, they are bottled or throttled by the internet infrastructure which we have right now itself. And that's where we need to move away from the centralized infrastructure because they're so far away via these ocean optic fiber cable lines that it doesn't make any sense, and we are not able to communicate better, not able to innovate better, and not able to collaborate better. That's where we came up with that we need to build this network ourselves. We need to build a new network which can solve this problem and which takes the monopoly away from these data centers to people like you and me. But to do that, we realized that to build this DeepIn, you'd heard a lot about DeepIn, but to build this decentralized physical infrastructure network, you need to bootstrap the demand yourself. This is very efficiently done in the Web 2 world by people like or projects like Uber, who essentially first build supply, but then build demand. While in Web 3, it will be opposite. You cannot just keep on building supply of nodes all around where you don't have demand yourselves. That's why what we did first was we built demand ourselves. We made sure that we build a demand. We built our own app, which works faster than Google Meet, which works faster than Zoom, which works faster than Cisco, and make sure that we have a very good experience in terms of having a good quality of audio and video calls. And then we wrapped this into an SDK. That means anyone who wants to build any kind of communication applications can use this infrastructure and do that. Right now in ETH India as well, after in a couple of hours, people will be building phenomenal stuff using our infrastructure. Any kind of communication which they want to build, which is very immersive, could be built using us. By doing so, we have essentially crossed a humongous kind of traction on the product itself. It's very rare in Web3 that you have a working product, and it's even rarer to have a working product which grows on a 30% month-on-month growth rate. And that's what we have done in terms of our app. Our app is live, our infrastructure, our SDKs are live, and you can use it. And similarly, we have also built a Farhouse kind of application, which is on Farcaster, where essentially rather than using this X spaces, you can use Far Spaces, Farhouse, which is supremely like 10,000 people can join those calls and can have a very good time. And this is our whole ecosystem of Huddle01. The apps you see here, interestingly, they are the ones where essentially Huddle01 is either integrated or is getting integrated or is live, essentially. Now, this is what we have been doing with the Filecoin and the IPFS team. Any recordings which you upload, if you do that via Zoom or any other platforms, on a platform level, you'll notice that you have to upload that onto cloud. And clouds are supremely expensive. And that's where what we do is that on the hot layer, we upload all of this over IPFS. On the cold layer, we upload this all over Filecoin, making your recording so cheap that you don't have to think about it. In that sense, making sure that the value, and again, the privacy is much more there because you don't have to think about your data being tracked, because essentially on Filecoin, there's no other way to make sure that your data could be retrieved by someone who is a third party in general. And this is what we have been doing with Filecoin and Huddle01. If you see here, in terms of the growth rate of real-time communication data, it's a staggering growth. It will keep on increasing. And that's why I showed you the video of AI first. And the reason why I showed that video to you was essentially how much amount of audio and video data will be uploaded over the real-time communication network which we have been building. This is the whole economy of Huddle01. It took us almost 4 years to reach to this diagram which I'm showing you, where essentially on the left side you're seeing clients, all the apps who have been built on top of our infrastructure. SDKs are people who can build things on our infrastructure. The green side are the media nodes, which everyone here who has a 250 Mbps internet connection, a 4-core CPU, that means everyone's laptop can power these calls, can power an audio video call. Imagine doing your own huddle call and you basically making money from that call itself rather than paying money for that. So pay as you go, pay as you meet, like essentially it's like need to earn rather than pay as you go kind of model. And this is what the media nodes are. It's an engineering marvel built by our team itself. It's a small media node which you can just get it. You go on our website, you'll get to know more about it in future here. But the phase 1 of media node sales we did recently, where people bought this node. There was more than 2,200 people who bought these nodes, and they've been running it, and there will be testnet which will live very soon to make sure that anyone can run these nodes effectively. This is how the onboarding looks like. 250 Mbps. 4-core CPU, 21% TG supply, and that's about it. And this is where I was the most interesting part, and this is where I'll just close the chapter after. Right now, communication, we always thought about communication to be between humans, and that's completely going to change now. We will be doing the communications not only with human to human, but with AI agent to human, with AI agent to AI agent. And this will have phenomenal impact. I actually wanted to show you one more video, and that will blow your mind. That video is about how you can chat with an AI therapist. You don't require a therapist anymore. You just go on a call, you can go on to a huddle call. There will be an AI therapist joining in, and you can talk to them. You can have a good conversation with them. Similarly, as a friend, you can do these kind of things. And imagine that having a latency of less than 100 milliseconds is a fantastic marvel for humans in itself. And this is our road to mainnet. Our white paper is launched. Our testnet is coming up. Our mainnet is coming up after that. And our testnet time duration is early first week of January. And that's where we'll just do it. If you want to be a part of this journey, want to run these infrastructure and make sure that we can communicate better, collaborate better, innovate better as human beings, make sure that we are able to do this communication in a much more Iron Man style, you can be part of this network as our phase 2 of node sales goes live. But before we end this, low latency and high bandwidth. This is what we are solving, right? By building this decentralized network. We have been using this for communication world. Can we use that for financial world as well? Making sure that can we build a decentralized exchange which is much more faster, because we already have been doing that for communication. So essentially, it's time to hyper-financialize. We're making sure that in coming months, we are able to have decentralized exchanges built on top of our general infrastructure, because we've already done that for the communication. And yes, with that, thank you so much. And yeah, have a good time here in Filecoin Bangalore.